everyone, and welcome to New Trials the Podcast. I'm Preya.
And I'm Melanie.
The New Trials of Captor Sakura, Syaoran, and Friends is a popular ongoing fanfic by Wishluv, and is based off of Clamp's Captor Sakura. And in each episode, we'll do a deep dive of a new chapter. Let's get into it.
All right. So to start off on our Star Alliance section, we have a comment that we also forgot to bring up last time, and I'm so sorry. But it's from one of our subscribers called Carolina Ortiz, and it was from the Audiobook chapter 8. And basically she said, "Me encanta, espero pronto ver algo nuevo de esta historia, la amo tanto." Basically that translates to, "I love it. I hope to see something new from the story soon. I love it so much." And basically I replied back, "Gracias por escuchar. Esperamos tener un nuevo capítulo pronto también." And basically that just said, "Thank you for listening. We hope that there's something new out soon too," or basically along that lines. But thank you. Muchas gracias, Carolina. Got to show off my Spanish skills finally. See, guys?
I know. See, Melanie's, I know she speaks Spanish. This is the first time that I get to witness it. Very, very cool.
Gracias. I'm not native, but thank you. I appreciate it.
And also shout out to Catherine Thomas, who commented on the post for chapter 17, A Small World After All. She says, "Thank you so much for keeping this alive." It's girl, we're here for you. We're here for all of you.
It's like, I've said it before, but this has become one of my favorite things I do every single week. And, I love Preya anyway. So any excuse to talk and hang out with Preya for a couple hours, I'm already down for it. But this has been so much fun.
Oh yeah, this is a New Trials project unlike any others. I really feel that we're breathing new life into this beloved fanfic.
I agree. And also, friendly reminder about the Q&A that we're having soon with our one and only Wish Chan. So if you guys do have questions for her, please get them to us soon. Just as a friendly reminder, you can email us at ntthepod@gmail.com. You can shoot us a Facebook question if you would like, or of course you can DM or email Wish Chan herself. And the deadline for that is we would really like the questions to be in by the end of February, maybe a little bit into the beginning of March, but we really need the questions in soon. That way we can make sure we get the questions to Wish Chan. She has proper time to answer them the way we all want it to, and all that fun stuff.
Looking forward to that. So in this chapter, Sakura and Syaoran get to meet Xing. Melanie, have you ever met a famous person?
The only one I can think of is back in my promotional modeling days. I did a lot of stuff for NASCAR. And I got to meet Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's like this big NASCAR person, and I don't really remember a whole lot about it. I remember him being kind of polite, but I don't follow NASCAR, really know anything about it. I was there to be one of those, I'm so sorry, guys, this sounds terrible, but I was there to take pictures and be the trophy girl. That's literally what I was there for. And so I didn't even really know who he was. And then the only other one I can think of is here in Kansas City, we have our Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. And when I'm not doing this stuff with Preya, I work in the medical field, in ophthalmology specifically. And a couple of years ago, I worked for our big hospital we have here, and we were in charge of doing the players' eye exams, because we were in charge of doing the Kansas City Chiefs eye exams. And everyone came in, they were all super nice, and it was like 1:00, and I was like, "Oh, great, we're done for the day." And they're like, "No, there's one more player, and he's not here yet." Maybe I won't say his name just in case it is HIPAA. But anyways, one player hadn't showed up yet. And so I was just like, we were waiting around for him. And finally, 3 hours later, Mr. Man saunters in, and he's Mr. Big Man on campus. This isn't Mahomes. He's the nicest guy ever, but I'll let you put the puzzle pieces together. But everyone was like, "Oh, he's so cute. He's so cute. He's so hot. Blah, blah, blah." I mean, and where we were doing their eye exams, we were in this like spa hot tub area is where they put us. And so it was really echoey in there. And so as he was walking out, the other 2 girls I were with, they're like, "He's so cute. He's so cute." And I go, "Really? I think he looks like a Lego man." And I guess my voice echoed because we were in the spa area, and Lego man, Lego man, Lego man, Lego man. And, and there were 2 players sitting outside the door, and they go, "Hey, dee dee dee, the girl that checks your pressure thinks you look like a Lego man." because he does. He has like really broad shoulders and a really square head. And I just did not see the appeal of him. And I was like, number one, you're no longer attractive because you made us wait for 3 hours for your butt. And number two, like, no, thank you. But anyways, how about you?
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that. That was so much fun. So for me, if anyone watched enough Dancing with the Stars, then they would surely know the professional dancer Maxim Cherskowski. So in 2009, he was a judge for a ballroom dancing competition in Montreal called the Classique de Québec. And I bought a ticket as a spectator. Now, as I was leaving the hotel with some friends, he was just getting back in the same way. And he's like, oh, sorry, and went along his way. And I walked away thinking, oh my God, Max talked to me. It was very exciting.
It's always in that moment you never know what to say. Like I'm sure like I could think of all sorts of things I would love to say to a celebrity like Taylor Swift. Like in my head, I picture me saying the most witty, most awesome things that make her be like, "Oh, I want to be best friends with this girl." Whereas I know what would come out would be like, "I can see you." And that'd be like the only thing I could
Well,
say.
to be fair, Taylor Swift was doing an interview. I think it was Ellen who was interviewing, and she was with Zac Efron. Like they were promoting something, and like Taylor and Zach were comparing stories about like what fans do, and Taylor's like, yeah, most of them cry.
That would be me. Same if I ever met any of the Spice Girls, I would just be a bawling mess and not able to say absolutely anything.
Well, lucky for SNS, they really held their composure when they met with Shing.
I think they knew they were there for business.
So today we'll be discussing Chapter 18, Stalked in New York. This chapter was released in December 2000. The word count is 5,867, so it's shorter than the previous chapter. And once again, everyone is in the 8th grade. We're continuing the winter holidays. Time for the summary. Syaoran, Sakura, and Tomoyo used the day to track down Shing. Once they found his place, they were all invited in by Shing, who then realized that they were Ryurin and Nadeshiko's children. They learned that, as a student, Shing studied them from the outside. He was shocked when he found out his favorite subjects were dead, and even more shocked that Sakura and Syaoran were not siblings, saying that the fates didn't allow it after all. He told them that Ryurin sent him the star sapphire ring that he coveted, as he couldn't bear to keep it himself. When Sakura asked to see the ring, Shing, to his horror, discovered he no longer had it. He then handed Sakura a white card that he mysteriously found with instructions to uncover something. He told Sakura that his painting, Destruction, didn't mean anything. Shing explained that it was only his creativity that was behind it, so she shouldn't be disturbed. When they took their leave, Shing warned them that their closest friend may be their worst enemy. That night, the girls were surrounded by a gang of thugs after a shopping trip. Sakura recognized the symbol of the black skull as a badge on the jacket. She realized that their foes were being controlled. Sakura and Mei Lin made quick work of taking out all the gangsters before Sharon, Aaron, Tuya, Yukito, and Ariel arrived. Sharon cut the badge off with his knife, which confused Sakura since he told her that the blade was dull. Back at the hotel when everyone was sleeping, Sakura and Sharon left to follow the new instructions at the same time, so they had no choice but to do it together. Realizing that the trouble started when Syaoran came back instilled a little fear in Sakura. When they found out what they were looking for, they were repulsed to see a broken blossom with a hangman's noose around it, a shredded replica of the destruction with the exception that the boy was holding a golden hilton knife to the girl's throat, and there was dried blood. A new note mentioned a dazzling night they cannot see, and an explosion as it wished them a frightful new year. Sharon set the chest on fire, and Sakura used the erase to get rid of the remains. She realized that she could trust no one, including Sharon. Okay, so at the top of the chapter, we have Sakura wondering how different Sharon would be if it wasn't for his connections to Chloe Reed or magic, but she quickly brushes it off by thinking, if he did not have all the magic and the name to burden him, that would end the only tiny connection he had with her. It would mean no Syaoran in her life at all. That would mean a very empty life. And this is exactly what happens at the end of arc 3 when Syaoran sacrifices his magic. Like on his end, he had to settle for the fact that without magic, he could protect Sakura, and he didn't deserve to stay by the side. But to see that we had hints of that so soon.
It's insane. It's crazy. Well, and it also is kind of is the topic that we brought up last episode, I believe, of, that's kind of the thought that Sakura has the whole time, kind of going through this whole story of, I wouldn't have any connection with Syaoran unless it's this. Whereas he has I don't fit in Sakura's pure world because I'm not a pure person. So it's very much a theme that carries throughout, but it is super cool to see the foreshadowing aspect of it too. So neat.
So they find Shing's address, they go to his home, and I love how they just resorted to breaking and entering.
I'm also convinced he has to live in Brooklyn because that's where all like the artistry people live. And the fact that they described it as it's like artistic on the outside and stuff makes me think. Or I could also see him sort of living in Harlem too. Like Harlem has had kind of like a rejuvenation of it, and it's very artsy there too. Because I don't really see him being like an Upper East Side type of guy. I don't think that'd be the vibe that he would want to live in.
Yeah. I think I was just surprised that like Sakurai, she didn't use her cards to stop her from falling. It's like she has such an arsenal at her fingertips, and then she's like, "Wee." So luckily Sharon uses his magic to save her. And Tomoyo took note of Ariel's action plan number 2, which is Sharon's secret concern.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up in this scene is so she looks up and she thinks she sees a shadow above her, right? And that's what makes her slip. So, what my theory is, and I'm curious to know what you think, is I think in this chapter, we're meant to believe it's actually the stalker card that she's seen, but I think it's actually the first appearance of the Kaido magician.
See, I was going to mention that this chapter was the first appearance of Kaiju Magician, but only when the ring was stolen. But now that you mentioned that, it's like as I was reading it, I'm like, well, there's the stalker, but I like your theory better. And we know
Mm-hmm.
that like Kai was there because Shing just saw the ring the day before, and as he was going to get it, it all of a sudden disappeared. So yes, I love, 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 love that theory.
Mm-hmm. And it makes sense, him being the sister con that he is that he would realize, hey, my little sister's in this big apple. I need to keep an eye on my little sister. Sorry, spoiler alert, guys. And then, so it makes sense to me that, yeah, I think we're meant to think it's the stalker, but I actually think it's the first appearance of the Kaido magician.
Ooh, I love that. Oh, I can't wait to get to Kaiju Magician next arc. Uh, so Shing allows SNS to come see him, and I really love how he recognizes them as Nadeshiko and Rion's children, but then at the same time shocked that they weren't siblings. It's like, oh, to have such like preconceptions of something and have the rug pulled out from under you.
Especially when it's literally his life's work too, is this like tragic well not tragic, he'll find out it's tragic, but this romance is like his life's work, and then to find out that um and then to find out that it's not. Poor guy.
I know, and I think it's interesting that Shing's memories of Nadeshiko and Riren's are a lot different than Keisuke's role in their life as one of like the friends, because he was
Yes.
really around. When like Miara was writing Starcrossed, he was there helping out and whatnot. And I also thought it was surprising that he knew about the dark forces, but I just made a note that like, yeah, he gives off big Tomoyo energy.
I can see that. And then the painting, like he mentions, like the fates didn't allow it after all. And there was a question I meant to bring up last episode and I forgot. And then I think it's also mentioned in Wish Chan's author's note later. But the destruction painting and us finding out what happened between Nadesco and Riren, we still haven't found that out really, right?
Yeah, that's because the only thing we know is like what we learned from Riren's diary. and like the regrets that he had as a dying man. It
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be until later that we learn about the flashback.
Mm-hmm. Well, the only thing that I can think of is the fates literally do show up next arc. And so
Yes.
maybe it really, and we know what he sees when he's in there and stuff. So maybe that was the catalyst for everything. But I think the actual scene of the destruction we haven't seen yet or know about, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a bit blurry in like when it comes to Nadeshiko arc trivia. So definitely gonna be interested in diving back in as we continue our reread.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So my note says Shing's missing ring is the first hint we get of the Kaiju magician in New Trials, but looks like he beat me to that one.
And I think,
Uh,
and again, I think it's meant for us to think that it was the stalker because they
mm,
find the little skull paper in there. But I think it's just a red herring on Kai's part
oh
the whole
yeah.
time.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And like even later on in the fic, we learn like we do get the confirmation that Kai is in New York because like he tells Miho that's like, yeah, when you were in Times Square, I was standing next to you. So it's like 100% canon that Kai was in New York during
Mm-hmm.
this period of
Mm-hmm.
the timeline.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like Sakura gets the note, hides it from Syaoran because it was signed by the Black Skeleton Mask. Um, it's like a list of directions, and I think it's a strange scene because Shing is actually addressing the question to both of them. So it's like he's like, I have something to show you both, and then Sakura is like being all furious. It's like, yeah, yeah, this is all for me. I'm like, we're supposed to think that maybe Sharon didn't think it was that important, but we'll find out later on that's not the
Mm-hmm.
case.
Mm-hmm. Well, the stalker's very much playing with her mind at this point too, where she's convinced they got her convinced that, when he showed up, everything went bad and so poor girl.
Yeah. And it doesn't help when Shing warns them, your closest friend may be your worst enemy.
I know. I was like, shut up, old man. I
It's
guess he's
like
not old, but
I'm like the only way I could think of that applying is like Aaron and Erica being in New York with them. They're not super close, but they did get invited to the trip.
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was very strange for Shing to say that. And it's like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? Your
Mm-hmm.
Sakura is already like on a precipice. She's Um, oh, I like there's the moment where Sakura asks if the person who stole the ring was the same person who stole the scroll. And like I thought that was funny because even though she was wrong, because we know that the twins stole the scroll, soon she's going to be right because Kai steals the scroll from the twins.
Yes, he does. I was gonna bring that up too. So you stole that one from me.
Well, I think their visit with Shing went really well. It's kind of funny because it wasn't even supposed to happen. His maid was like, "What are you doing? You're trespassing. Go away." And Shing's like, "No, no." It's like, "Let him in. We'll have a good time." It's eccentric artist for you.
Well, and I also think it's like Wish Chan kind of laying some breadcrumbs for us too, because she literally mentions in the scene that he's like a younger man, almost her father's age, and that he's not as old as what she thought he would be. But for me in my head, when I went forward in reading this until we got to the big reveal, I always pictured him as like an older man in my head. So when the whole thing is revealed, I was like, whoa. But now going back and doing this deep dive, I'm like, all the evidence was like right there.
I know, because we're supposed to think of him like as an eccentric artist with wild hair, like kind of unkempt, because he doesn't clean up until like arc 4.
Mm-hmm.
So and
Mm-hmm.
then he like and a makeover like that like gives makes you look 10 years younger.
Shaving a beard can do wonders. Or not, depending.
So next in this chapter, Sakura and the girls were accosted by thugs. And once again, I'm surprised. How come she didn't use her cards?
I guess maybe she didn't feel like she could because she was around strangers, and she also had Erika was there. I think if Erika wasn't there, and I think it was just her, Tadeo, Malin, and Miho, I think she probably definitely would have. But I think the fact that Arika was there and she still doesn't know things about Arika. But the fact, what I wanted to bring up at this scene is Arika acts so scared. And I'm like, girlfriend, it's your card doing this, or your force doing this.
Well, for what it's worth, we know exactly how she acts around the insect, so that doesn't mean anything.
That's true. That's true. And I guess they always said that Eran has the most power over the force. So, because in my head, I was like, well, can't you just compel them just to like calm it down a little bit, you know? But maybe she really couldn't.
Hmm. So Sakura realized that like it's a force that's in play when the gang comes on to her. And we also have a sad confirmation that the martial arts lessons has stopped since Syaoran told Sakura that he didn't have quote unquote special feelings for her.
But it's so endearing to me that she kept it up and that she didn't give up. And I love the fact we get this entire girl power scene where she literally just knocks the crap out of most of them. And Maylin, the whole time I read that first part, I was like, hello, Maylin, Maylin, Maylin. So I love the fact we get this whole girl power scene before Toya and Shaoran end up showing up and kind of finishing things off. But I love that. I love it.
Oh yeah, we know our girls can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's Sharon and the guys, they do show up. Now we get an appearance of Sharon's knife, and then seeing it slash through the badge tells us it's not as blunt as he claims to be, as he claims it to be. So that's a bit confusing.
Yeah, and I think that doesn't help Sakura's suspicions, the fact that she realized he lied to her about that knife, because it was really much the catalyst of the beginning of their first argument to begin with. So
Exactly, exactly. So Sakura has a dream of the destruction scene coming to life. And when I was reading this part, I thought it was crazy how similar it was to the Sakura versus Sharon duel for the Sakura cards in Arc 4.
oh man, again, that went over my head, but that's such a good pickup though. Yeah, I can
Like
see that.
I know Wish Chan always says that back in like 2000 she didn't really envision Arc 4, but whether it's just really interesting how like the dream is kind of a bit of a parallel of what's going to happen towards the end of the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that when I put this on YouTube. That's crazy.
So Sharon calls Sakura out on going to the Alice statue without him. And I think my like to go back to my previous question of like Sakura hiding the card and Sharon apparently not seeing, I think maybe he has like photographic memory and he only needs to look at it for a couple of seconds before he absorbs
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to. That's crazy. Because the Alice statue is kind of buried in Central Park too. It's not an easy statue to get to.
So they follow the instructions, they find a spot, and they're still arguing with each other. It's like they just don't quit. They find the box, and the contents are a broken blossom with a hangman's noose around it, and a shredded replica of the destructions, but instead of the knife, there's a sword with dried blood to give a terrible smell. Um, I found that so creepy.
The fact that there's a tiny little replica of the destruction in there, that almost kind of makes me giggle for some morbid reason. I don't know why. Just thinking that this card went to such lengths of making a tiny little replica of the destruction.
It's like
I don't know why.
it's like they have the create card in their back pocket and they could just whip out all these things. Like,
I also think it's funny that right before this, they climb out a window of the Plaza Hotel, which is not a thing. But anyways, but yeah, yeah. But the dried blood and stuff and all that would be creepy, and yeah, and blood, especially, no matter what it is, whether it's animal blood or whatever, if it's been like sitting, it does not smell good.
mm-mm. So we get a note and it says, "A dazzling night you can't see, that you can't face. A marvelous explosion. Have a frightful New Year's." And this time it references two of the dark forces, invisible and explosive.
Oh my, yeah, you can't see. And yeah, shoot, again, that went over my head.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I think I had fun with this chapter because there was just so much foreshadowing. I was really giddy over it.
Yeah, there's so many little breadcrumbs in this one. Yeah.
So at this point, Sakura is feeling super vulnerable and realizes she can't trust anyone, including Syaoran.
I'm glad this doesn't last for too much longer, personally.
So when you were reading the audiobook, you switched your tone from scared Sakura to have a frightful new year. Did you like contemplate how you wanted to deliver that line? I really like the way you did it.
Oh, shoot. I don't know. I feel like in the moment, I always just kind of feel it out. And then, but you know me, I always like to do the sinister voices whenever I can. So I was like, ooh, that feels sinister. So I'm going to be sinister.
I definitely like that. It was a really nice like juxtaposition from like scared Sakura to like because New Trials is pretty much like it's not first person, it's third person, but even when it's third person, it's like majority like Sakura's it follows her around and yeah, it'll follow other characters around. But this is like the first time I felt that we were in like the Dark Forces perspective.
Yay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to Dark Forces Corner. Right off the bat, we have a reference. Well, yeah, we have a reference to the stalker in the chapter title, Stalked in New York. And this is where I wrote, there's a mention of a shadow reaching over her when she was on the tree, so maybe that could be the stalker. And like you totally challenged me on that. And like now I want that to be the Kaiju magician.
It is. It is.
But then she saw the stalker symbol on one of the thugs, and the symbol went away after Sakura beat them up. And then there was a few mention of the fates, but like I have a hard time just pigeonholing them as dark forces because they're just more than that. It's like yes, I know in Arc 3 they do agree to like have to make a covenant with Sakura and turn into a card, but the fates are just like way bigger than that.
Yeah, because I don't think she ever uses the fates for anything other than sealing it. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. We get the fly card when and Syaoran catches Sakura trying to leave. And they never did say how the two of them, like, you know how you said climb out of the plaza window? Maybe they just used her fly card and they just flew to Central Park.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, Sakura uses the erase to remove everything that they did in the park. Okay, for the fan art spotlights. So I'd like to highlight Tomoyo during the wintertime by Selenity. Selenity is a very, 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 very long time member of the group. This fan art was actually drawn in 2004. She's a wonderful person, one of the mods of the New Trials Ring, back when we had the New Trials Ring, which is now a group's IO, but definitely a long-standing member of the group. So it was shared with the New Trials Ring back in December of 2004. And while it's not a fan art specific to this chapter, she does point out in the author's notes or artist notes that there's no robins in Japan. So I'd like to believe that Tomoyo is in New York.
For sure. Yeah. It almost makes me think of Secret Garden a little bit too. I don't know why, but it's kind of giving me Secret Garden vibes.
I
And
think
yeah,
it's the robin.
probably. Yeah, but that's one of my favorite books. But yeah, I just love how serene she looks. And Tomato's not easy to draw either. So good on her.
Mm. Okay, we're ready for the author's notes.
All right. Kind of short and sweet again, but we have Wish-chan. Oh my, how did things get so screwed? I don't know how the plot got so dark and twisting. Poor Sakura. Strange about the artist Sheen, eh? Keep in mind what happened between Nadesco and Riren. It will be one of those unsolved mysteries. Won't say any more, afraid of spoilers. Next chapter, New Year's Eve.
Oh, that seems like Wish-chan's like MO throughout the whole 20 years. It's like can't say much spoilers, can't say much spoilers.
And it's still, in fact, an unsolved mystery because we still don't know, and it's 2023.
No, it's quite the journey, and it's like just the other day I was telling Melanie, it's like, oh, when Wish-chan started writing New Trials, CCS didn't finish yet. That was up in the air, and as Melanie and I are recording New Trials the podcast, New Trials has still yet to be finished, so we can speculate about the conclusion all we want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that. I love that we don't know. Like trust me, guys, I'm very much looking forward to the ending. Do not get me wrong. I will be so excited. But it's also fun to not know at the same time while doing this podcast, because it does get more conversations going and things too. So I appreciate it.
So we've reached the end. Have you anything else to say?
I don't think so.
You have been listening to New Trials the podcast, where it must rain for there to be a rainbow.
You've been listening to New Trials the podcast. Please be sure to check out the audiobook version of this fan fiction that you can find anywhere you can find this podcast. Also, please be sure now more than ever to send us questions to ntthepod@gmail.com, because as you know, here within the next week or two, we are going to be having a Q&A with the one, the only, the lovely Wish-chan. So please make sure you get your questions to us ASAP, guys. And also, please be sure to check out the Facebook fan page for New Trials, where you can also send us questions there as well. And please be sure to stick around next week, where we will discuss Chapter 19, The Dazzling Countdown.